Welcome to the OC Endurance Podcast. My name is Chris, along with my co-hosts Tony and Austin. I used Tony first. It's not alphabetical, as we talked about last week. I don't even remember what order I did it in last week. I honestly don't remember hardly anything from last week after spending all that time in the heat in Arizona over the weekend. It was blazing out there.
Do you know what episode we're on?
I think it's 25.
Ooh.
Is that right? I was second guessing it, so I didn't want to say it in the beginning.
No, you're right. Yeah. I think it's close.
How you boys doing?
I'm doing awesome. Doing good.
Yeah. It's another day in paradise right now.
Yeah, it's weird. We're recording in the evening this week. Things have just been changed around with travel and everything. And my kids are running around in the background, screaming outside and in the kitchen. So if you hear them, I apologize up front. I don't have the luxury of having no little ones running around my house like you two do.
Well, maybe a dog barks or something like that.
I was going to say, yeah, we got dogs, but they're quiet. Pups are quiet.
They're obedient.
Yeah.
I tell mine to be quiet, and that only lasts about 3 or 4 seconds, and then the volume comes right back up.
Throw them a treat or something. That always works.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what you guys been up to over the last week?
Yeah, not a whole lot, man. We're just we're busy this weekend following everybody in California. I mean, there's a lot of racing going on besides those 2 races too. So I don't know. Not much though.
Yeah, no, I was Sherpa, right, for Nadia on Saturday. So we drove up to Palm Springs on Friday. That took 3.5 hours. That's
work traffic Friday night.
Yeah, we left at like 3, it's like 3 hours. I'm exaggerating, but still, it was. We left around 3:00. But one of our buddies who's also gonna race out there left at noon, and it took him 3 hours as well. So it was just a cluster to get.
That's why whenever I go to La Quinta, I leave like Friday morning and then work out there. I don't mess around with driving out Friday night because my parents used to have a house right near there in Yucca Valley, Morongo Valley area. And those Friday nights, we would do weekends out there at the house, and those Friday nights sucked, just sitting in traffic for hours.
Yeah, that was a tough drive. I mean, just stop and go is just killer, right? Like I hate traffic in general, and that was just not a good time. And then, it's like 102 degrees, 104 degrees, I think, when we got there. Just in time for to dunk the wetsuit and right before they closed down for the day because it was open till 6. So yeah, did pick up and then and then just went and grabbed dinner that night.
Yeah, I drove through there it was probably because I left here at 5 a.m. to go to Arizona, so probably got out there like 6:30 in the morning. Sun wasn't even up yet, but it looked really cool because the lights coming up and you got all those hundreds of windmills kind of out there, and then you try and take a photo on your phone and it looks like crap because they all look really tiny. They don't show up. So it's like, I don't know why that, you always want to take a photo of something and you got to take a photo and it just doesn't capture it.
Yeah. Dick pic problems, huh?
It always looks so much smaller. Gotta use that 7 times zoom. Oh man, I'm getting red. But yeah, no, the heat was, I assume it was pretty close to the same as it was out in Arizona, because Arizona, it was definitely above 100 Friday, Saturday. And then it cooled down probably a good at least 5 degrees for Sunday, which was nice. It was still blazing. It was in the mid 90s, but it wasn't over 100.
Yeah. And it was nice back home. Like we drove back Saturday night and it was literally a 20-degree difference just getting home. I was so happy to be home. And then, I went and trained out on Sunday, and that was on the river trail. It was so nice. It was so nice because everybody was gone. All the damn California athletes gone. All the Arizona athletes gone. They're all out of here, right? I loved it.
It was just you and the homeless?
Yeah. They are getting worse.
Yeah.
I actually,
it's getting bad again.
I filed a report with the OC sheriff this week when I got home because I was like, this is getting ridiculous again. Like it's going to get out of hand soon.
Does this have to do with the story you were kind of telling us about?
Oh no. So, you know, like you don't realize like what you say sometimes and how it can be taken. And,
Coming from Tony, that's kind of funny.
yeah, well, not necessarily like in general. I realize what I'm saying on purpose. But no, just like you know, when you're on the bike and you're passing somebody, you know, on your left, right, like that type of thing. And so I'm riding the river trail, and the closer you get to the beach, the less clothing the women are wearing as they're running. Right. So like down by me, they're got like the long tights on and like, you know, loose baggy race shirts and stuff like that. And then once you cross that last wooden bridge, it's like the little boy shorts with like the sports bras. And, you know, again, it's just very revealing. Well, I'm getting closer to the beach, and I'm getting ready to pass a female runner who's scantily clad. And, I'm letting her know I'm there. And I said, coming on your backside. And she stopped and turned and goes, what did you just? And I was like, but I'm going by its speed. And so it didn't really register. And then I realized what she heard and how it could be taken. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that would be bad in that situation. Because I'm sure like there's, you know, like guys probably, you know, catcalling or saying shit to these women all the time. They're probably hearing all this like random nonsense from dudes as they're riding by. And I'm sure she was just like probably over it. Like she's probably like, the next guy who says something vulgar, I'm gonna like let him have it. And I was the idiot who said coming on your backside as I was going by her.
Is that a way you commonly tell someone you're passing?
I usually say coming on your left, or coming
you
by
just
on
say
your left.
On your left?
It depends. For cyclists, I do. For cyclists, it's just on your left because like I feel like they're more aware of what I'm communicating versus a runner. If I just say like on your left, like I don't want them to mishear what I'm saying, so I'm usually like will give a full sentence for them. And because she was running almost center, and so I couldn't really say coming on your left, so I said like coming on your backside, which made sense to me in the moment. But when it came out of my mouth, that's when you're like, oh yeah, that was terrible.
It's kind of like when a server says enjoy your meal and you say you too. That kind of sort of thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You're just like, why did I say that? Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you had to talk with the sheriff's department and you just were like, well, I'm on the phone with them, so I'll report the homeless problem I was having as well. Is that?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
No, the worst part is I have to go down and turn around at the end of the damn beach and turn around and see her again.
You didn't stop and apologize?
No, I just
put your head down.
Yeah. I was full arrow head down.
Very arrow.
Yeah. I felt like an asshole, but yeah, nothing new for me. I'm getting used to it.
Oh man. All right. How about you, Austin? Just getting ready for Arizona. Now Arizona's next. Now you got your Arizona.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues making weird comments to women on the bike trail this weekend. That's awkward. No, Saturday I woke up feeling, I don't know, pretty shitty, and I was up, 4:30 to get on the trainer, and then was going to go finish a couple hours outside for my long ride. And I got on the trainer for, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 minutes. And I just was congested, had a headache. And I was like, this is odd. I hardly ever get sick. I can't remember the last time I got sick. So I said, well, you know what? I got plenty of time today. I have nothing going on. So I'm just going to go lay down for a couple hours. And I ended up falling asleep for like another 2 or 3 hours. I didn't get on the trainer till maybe, I don't know, 8:30, something like that. And I just rode for like 3 hours on the trainer, which is whatever I could do. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I felt fine the next day. I got, a nice 15 miler in. So it's just the next couple of weeks, just kind of trying to build as much fitness, even though there's not much to be built in that matter of time, but kind of honing in on things, equipment, that sort of stuff, and just, go to Arizona and let it rip a little bit and see what happens.
Sweet.
Nice.
Well, at least it'll be on different roads than the 70.3 was on, because overall, most of the roads were okay, but there were some really, really bad roads. So,
well, how was the pristine town Tempe Lake?
It was good. It wasn't bad. It was nice and warm. It was no odor, no bad taste, nothing like that. Really foggy, green. You couldn't see anyone's feet in front of you. That was the hardest part. I guess I'll jump into what was going on with the weekend here, since I'm talking about Arizona. But you saying being sick reminded me, because Sujin was sick all weekend, right? She went into the race sick. I finally talked to her enough about going to urgent care. She finally went and got some antibiotics on Friday night. And was it Friday night? Yep. And then waited too late. Couldn't get them until Saturday morning. But at least she had some of that, whatever she was dealing with. And then I get home yesterday, and all 3 women in my house are sick with colds. So I'm just like, oh man, I'm destined to get this one way or another. But I am sleeping in my own room right now and trying to avoid them all I can. So I'm like, mask up, damn it. But no, yeah, shout out to Arizona on Friday morning. Registered. Got a nice placement with my all wealthy athlete. I was 105, so right up front.
Look at you.
Right next to Raul. He was 106. And it was blazing. It was really, really hot. All weekend, thought that it was going to be a non-wetsuit swim, but somehow Ironman pulled it off, that it was just 1 degree under 76 degrees. It was 75 degrees.
Amazing how that happens, huh?
I know. Hey, whatever. It was awesome. They had wetsuit peelers and everything. So,
did you guys have 100% finished on the swim rate, or how'd that go?
100%. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I know anyone who wasn't on the swim. I saw a report today, not a report. Someone made a comment that there were 1,800 athletes registered, which seems absurd to me. I don't recall that race ever being that big. 1,300 and some actually showed up to the start line, and only, it might have been 1,100 finished. So way more dropped out of this race than Kona women. So
that's crazy that the start rate was so low.
Yeah, and I don't know if that is. I have no way to know how many are registered or how that person knew. Someone had commented to Sujin that maybe they posted something online, basically saying they were a person who didn't finish, I think, and kind of justifying, don't be sad if you didn't, type of thing. So I don't know if that 1,800 number is real. That seems really high. But 1,300 seems accurate. That was kind of what was in the tracker, I believe. But I believe it was only 1,100 that finished overall. Or so.
It's not crazy, right? I'm sure there's people that probably got scared off.
That's almost a 20% drop, right? That's almost 20% DNF.
Yeah, but it's like, you think about Kona, right? And there's a lot of logistics and planning to get to Kona. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I would say you're probably a lot less likely to drop out at Kona, right? You were at a championship. You've raced.
Exactly.
So I think there's probably a lot more beginners, first timers at that race. So
it's the last year they're doing the 70.3.
Yep. This is it. You look like you're frowning, Tony. Do you have data?
No, I was just wondering why we're comparing the rate to Kona.
Oh, no, because I was joking, because only 2% of people didn't finish or whatever, but we had like 20% didn't finish it.
I made the joke about the 100% swim finish.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. And just
laugh, dude. It's funny.
Uh-huh. But
sensitive subject. Sensitive subject.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently there was a lot of DNF, and I could totally see it from what it looked like on the run. But as far as the swim, I had the fastest swim I've ever had there. I've always felt like that's a really slow swim. I actually was 4th in my age group and 44th overall swim, which, hey, I'll take it. That's probably the highest I've ever been, but that also speaks to the field competitiveness
Well, that, but also like, how often do you swim in mud? Like that's going to slow you down.
It was the fastest I've had. So, I mean, typically I feel like I've swam a 34 in there, which is, and I swam a 32. So it felt fast. They changed the swim course, which maybe had something to do with it. Previously you would swim down, call it a river, but down, there's no real current in there. Downstream, kind of away from town, make a right, and then swim back past the start and then beyond the start, and then kind of make another right and a right. And so it was kind of like it's a square, but you went two different, you started in one direction and ended from the other. And this time you actually went off the dock, two at a time, which was interesting. And, it was really confusing because you're stepping up to the mat and people would step behind the other swimmer, but they couldn't be on the mat. So they're constantly saying, don't get off the mat, don't, or whatever. So the people that were about to jump in are hearing, get off the mat or whatever. Right. So people were like, fuck, do I go? Do I not go? So I literally went off the mat, like turning sideways, turning around, looking like shit, hitting my watch. I'm like, did I not supposed to, what was happening? Was I not supposed to go?
Yeah.
So, but I think the person behind me stepped up on the mat behind me. So their timing chip was going to go at that point is what they were trying to stop from happening. But, but anyway, the nice thing was the race started at 6:20. So
that's really nice.
Yeah. So for me starting, I was pretty close to the front. 2 years ago, I led the swim out. I was the first swimmer in the water. But this year, I hung back a little bit with the rest of the folks that were there, and then moved up kind of towards right when we were about to start. And
that probably helped your swim too, right? If you're first in the water, you're breaking water for how long? Before anybody gets by you, and then versus being able to like follow feet and follow that stream.
No, I'll say that was one of the things is I actually worked on drafting this swim, which I do think it helped. But the problem was it was so foggy, you couldn't see anyone's feet. So it was really hard to determine how far in front of you they were. You almost had to sight like every other stroke because if they veered left or right, you would lose them instantly. I couldn't even see my own hand entering the water. It was that. Foggy.
So when you say foggy, the water was like hazy, not like foggy.
The water's like hazy. It's a super green, brown, hazy water that you can't see feet in front of you. Like I swam up on legs and never saw the feet go underneath me.
I know what you meant. I'm just trying to like paint the picture for those listening.
Yep. So definitely hazy is a better word. But overall, the swim for me went great. I did have some swimmers in front of me. I was able to hop on some feet, and I think that did help. I don't feel like I swam like real hard. I think I felt, kind of controlled and it was good. And came out, they had wetsuit strippers. That might have actually, the time from when you got out of the water to when the wetsuit strippers were there was too close, in my opinion. I didn't even have time to get my top down. So I'm running up to them and they're trying to pull it off my arms, and I got my watch on, and I like to have my wetsuit almost all the way down to my hips before I get to a stripper if I'm going to use them. And they were so close, you didn't have time to do anything. So it was almost less help than it should have been or could have been. So
if they provide them, do you normally use the strippers?
I'll use them for my feet sometimes. I mean, I hadn't done a race with wetsuit strippers in so long. I was like, might as well do it. Right. There was no one around. Like I said, I was out pretty early, in front of everyone. So there was really no one around, which was cool. Got in, got my bike, didn't see, not hardly any bike was gone at that point, and, jumped on the ride, and the ride was, it was still fairly cool, but back to swim, because they started at 6:20, the sun wasn't up. It was light, but the sun wasn't in your eyes. It did start coming up because I heard about people complaining, right, that you're swimming right into the sun, which I have faced before. Even 2 years ago, you're swimming right into that sun. You can see nothing, but it was great because the sun wasn't up yet. So,
so did they have to move the sun, or what did people do?
I don't know what they did. I can't imagine.
It's like you have to deal with this every race. You should be very, very aware of which way the sun's going to come up, what colored goggles to wear. This is pretty basic shit. And this is, again, kind of speaks to the level of the importance of like a practice swim. If you're new to a certain race, a practice swim the day before, around the time you're going to be starting, is always a good idea, because you can start to understand, not only get your sight lines, but if that sun's going to be up, where around it's going to be, and again, to be prepared for it.
This race is tough because, one, you can't just swim in there whenever you want. And the practice swim was from like 9 to 10 the day before. So it wouldn't have mattered. But I expected the sun to be coming up. You know which direction the sun comes up, and you can figure that out pretty easy. But yeah, I got lucky and avoided it. The only thing was you couldn't really see there was no sun, but you couldn't see the buoys regardless, because it was almost like a silhouette in front of you, right? Because you've got bridges and horizon and all of these things, so it was basically just black in front of you. So you still couldn't see the buoys. But the great thing is there's only so much to the left you can go, because you hit a wall, and so much to the right you can go, right? So
were you missing those Finland buoys?
I was missing those Finland buoys. Those were the best buoys ever. Yeah. But they had plenty of them. There's a buoy every 100 meters, so it's not a big deal. And then hopped out on the bike, and it was amazing. I felt like there was no one on the road, right? When you get out, I mean, you're used to it, Tony. You're always out in front. But for me, only having 43 people in front of me, there was no one around. And I felt like I was having a really good ride, felt really strong. Parts of that ride are great. The roads are so clean, like right there around the university and things like that. They're beautiful. There's a ton of U-turns though, right? I think it's 17 or some U-turns, but I don't mind those. It's not a big deal. But on the first lap coming down one of the overpasses, I think I just looked down, and right at that moment there was a chunk of asphalt that had come up and was sitting on top, and I hit it square. I thought I broke my rim. And you're going down at speed, probably doing 30 miles per hour or more, and I hit that thing, and immediately I could hear my rim on the ground just, and I'm trying to come to a stop, and it's kind of sliding around, and I got to a stop right as it turned left. Essentially, the course turned left, and I was pissed, because it's like, shit, I got to change these wheel of tube on these damn Reynolds rims, which sucks so bad. And so, funny story, I had a flat a couple weeks ago, if you guys remember, and I couldn't ride. My rim tape had started to come loose. I think from all the water from Finland and all that stuff, it came loose, and it was popping tubes. So I came home in a haste and did new tape and was messing with those tires, and they're a pain in the butt. And I specifically was like, make sure you put the tire on correctly. Make sure you put it on the right direction. And I got sidetracked, didn't pay attention, put it on, and then get to the ride. And went on a practice ride on Saturday, or just out cruising. And Raul looks down and he goes, I think your tire's on backwards. And I look back, I'm like, damn it. How did I put it on backwards? I specifically made a note to make sure I do it right. And I did, and I put it on backwards. And so I did tear it apart, take it off, and struggled to get it back on the right direction, even though I really debated whether it makes any bit of difference. But I knew, and Raul knew, that if Tony knew, that he would say how many 0.01 watts I would lose for having the tire on backwards. So I changed it just for you, Tony.
There you go.
But yeah, no. So other than, I hit that, and I thought I broke my rim. So hopped off, and luckily it was hot. So the rubber on the tires were really nice and stretchy, and I was able to pop it off, get a new tube in. I probably lost, 5, 6, 7 minutes. It's hard to calculate, but all I know is my splits were 22, 23, 24, kind of in those ranges. And then bam, 12 miles. Yeah. It was just like, and it's killing me. I saw it
immediately. I saw it and I was like, shit, something happened. And then I think I was talking to Michael, and I was like, he either flatted, like, something's wrong. He had to take a shit. He stopped taking a shit. something happened.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you got moving again pretty good. I like that race. It has so many checkpoints So
Yes.
you basically get so many timing sections that you're passing. So it was good
because you do 3 loops, right? Even
Yeah.
though maybe there's only 3 or 4 checkpoints, but you hit them 12 times because you do 3 loops on that course.
Yeah.
Which I kind of, I don't mind that at all, actually. I really liked that course specifically because you are around so many people all the time, right? You're going back and forth through downtown. The route you take it's kind of almost like a figure 8-ish type thing where you're on one side, you pass through downtown, you're on the other side. Then you come back, you pass through downtown, and the crowds are around most of the time. So it's really cool. It's not a lonely ride. There's a lot of people cheering and things out there, but it also,
that's a lot of loops though.
it gets crowded, right? The first loop, empty, right? And so I came out 4th, and then I came off the bike 10th is what I was told. So I felt, that I didn't, even with the flat tire, I only dropped maybe 6 spots.
Oh yeah, you dropped almost 7, I think. 7 because you dropped, I think, about 19.
I passed people back.
Yeah, for sure you did. Yeah, and you were making you were quickly making ground back up. So
yeah, I saw people going by. I knew who I had passed early on, and then I saw people going by as I was messing with the tire. So it's just like, oh man, there goes all those people I was in front of.
It was the old was it Captain America when he's like running loops around like the Capitol? And who's the other Marvel athlete that's with them? And he's like, don't say it. And he's like, on your left. Because he keeps looping him back and forth and over and over and over again. Yeah. Don't say it. God,
you try not to stress out, right? I mean, you had a flat in Alaska, right? So the immediate thing is like, I'm not going to get this changed. Fuck it, the race is done, right? It's almost like I don't want to be able to change it because I'm pissed that it's going to ruin my race. But I got it back on, and then I'm riding mad for a little while, right? And probably riding too hard.
Yeah.
But that goes away fairly quickly because I can't maintain that. And so the only thing about that course being 3 loops is the second loop was very dangerous. It was super crowded. I mean, just yelling at people on your left. They're not moving out of the way. I forget who it was. Somebody that was there with us. Might have been Michael. Somebody was yelling at somebody, finally went to their right, and the guy basically just told him, F you. Go around. Yeah. So, but the third loop, I think it spreads out enough again at that point that on the third loop, it's not as bad, but
because so many people have already finished and gotten off the course. Is that why?
I don't think so. Because I mean, I don't know what place I came in on the bike, but I can't imagine it was that many. I'd have to look as far as how many people finished. But I think they just start to, I think what happens is they start spreading out again. Right. They naturally there's groups of people coming out of the swim together and getting on the bike together. And that first side of the course where they're all coming out and kind of gathering. I just feel like the second loop, or they've just gotten better at riding by the third loop. I don't know that I'm on right there. I wasn't screaming at people near as much. And there's a couple sections for some reason, it's extremely narrow. Because they want to keep the right lane open, and then there's a curb on the left. It feels like it's less than 1 lane width that you have available. So if you get people riding 2 side by side, somebody trying to pass, and you're, one person's doing 13 and they're doing 15, and you're trying to pass and you're doing 23, right? You're coming up on people really fast and screaming at them, and trying not to hit people. So there were a bunch of times I had to slow down. There's just nothing you could do. You got to just scream and wait and get around them. But no, I came off the ride and felt like I had a successful ride. My goal was breaking 23 miles per hour, right? That's always been a goal. And I felt like I was on track for that. I haven't tried to do the math and subtract that 12 mile per hour to see if my average would have been 23. I'll just want to imagine that it was, and not know that it was 22.98 like it was at a previous race. I'll just say it was going to be 23, and got on the run. And, that run's always a tough run, and being in the 90s, it's a tough run. I just feel like it's boring and kind of draining. And you'll get to enjoy it twice as long, Austin. But you're just running around the outside of that lake, right? It's not even a lake, riverbed. So the one side near where the finish and start and all that is at, there's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of people. You get on that backside and there's nobody. And the first, I knew as soon as I started running, I had nothing. I have not had the ability to run at any sort of speed since surgery. I felt like I just can't get my legs moving that fast. I don't have the base, right? All I've done is race every 5 weeks. I haven't rebuilt my base or anything like that. So it was everything I could do to just try and run 8s for the most part. But that first loop, again, I felt like I was pretty much alone, right? There were runners. I was being passed, unfortunately. I felt like constantly at that point. But because I got off the bike and BJ was there, he's like, "You're in 10th place or something like that." And then it's just, I'm like, well, shit, I can't run. So what's going to happen? All I'm going to do is just get passed. So I was just dreading every runner that would go by me, trying to go think, are they in my age group? Are they in my age group? But it was the second loop, I'll say it was a death march for people. I have never seen that many people walking. I felt like everyone was walking. Like if people were running, the runners were far enough spread out that there weren't a lot of them. And it felt like every single person was walking on that second loop and just blazing heat. Every aid station. Well, the very first aid station, I made the total mistake of, it's like water, ice water, all of it's just going all over the body, right? Pouring ice in the front, ice in the back, water in the face, water. And I grabbed a Coke. And it's almost at the last table, and just bam, doused myself right in the face with Coke. And I was just like, son of a bitch. But luckily they had a pool, like a one of those kiddie pools full of ice and water. And I just like got my hands in there and like washed myself off really quick because it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I threw Coke on my face.
Did they have them like in different cups? Like, like sometimes they'll have water in the plain, and
Red Bull is always in a Red Bull cup or whatever, right? Gatorade is sometimes in a cup, but there weren't. I don't remember there being really that different. No, not at this race.
You're not thinking about it, but it does stick out in your mind. If it's like a plain white cup, you're like, oh, that's probably water. And then there's like some design on it that's Gatorade or whatever. And that happened to me at Long Beach because somebody had it in a plain cup and they were saying water. And I was like, well, this is electrolyte. And it's just like all over my face, so it's the worst, man. Yeah. So did that. But, and the other thing that was really interesting, gels were far and few between. They've caught on. They're not, I couldn't take gels and pack up. I didn't end up with like 14 gels in the back of my tri-suit. That was going to be my final question. How many Morton gels did you make out with?
I took 2 on the run and I ate them. I took them in when I got them. There weren't any more. Again, they didn't have 2 in a hand. I mean, anytime there's multiple people with 2 in a hand, I'm like grabbing every handful I can, but I don't know. They were stingy on the Mortons for this race.
Let's see, if you're having a bad race day, what you do is whenever they do have the station with the Mortons, you finish the station, but you go around the backside.
Come by again.
Come back. Yeah. You're like, oh, I'm having a bad day. Might as well get something out of this.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no. So overall, it was a good day. It was challenging. I think a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people DNF'd. I think it was probably all on the run. It was tough conditions. Hottest I've ever raced.
Really?
I've never been in that kind of heat racing before.
Did you alter kind of your bike nutrition to adapt to the fact that it's a hot day and you're probably not going to be able to take in a ton on the run? You know what I mean? Kind of front load?
Well, one of the alters was I had to lay my bike on its side, right, on the first loop. So I lost all of my nutrition out of my bottle. Right, it's a refillable bottle. It doesn't have a cap on it, so all of that nutrition poured out on the floor. Yeah. So, and I had it like taped closed so that it would not splash everywhere because that bottle splashes terribly. So at that point, I was taking all my nutrition from a bottle on my bike, and I didn't take in enough nutrition. So some of that could have contributed to my run, but I didn't want to make excuses for it being nutrition. I just wanted, I was not in run shape. I just don't have it to run right now. So at the end of the day, it was just survival mode. Which has been funny because Oregon, I ran, I think 8:15s, like 5 weeks after I was allowed to start running. And here we are now, 2 races later. I did Finland and then I did this one. And I think both of those runs have been worse than when I came off running 5 weeks. So
yeah, but it's tough to have if you're going to race every 4 or 5 weeks, it's tough to get any quality work in. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I felt like I haven't started from scratch and just built basics, right? Just hours and hours of zone 2 and just building my base back up. And I feel like I'm really lacking in that. My long run was a race every month and a half or whatever. So, yep. But overall, it was fun. It was a good day.
Yeah. You know what I was most surprised with that race? I looked at the finishers. My age group, the first place finisher was a 4:41.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy because
that is insane. It's so even so then 45 to 49 was a 4:19. Even the 50 to 54 was a 4:40.
Yeah. So what was the guy who went 4:11? What age group was that? 35 to 40?
I think 35 to 39.
35, 39?
35, 39. 35. No, the winner was 4:27. So maybe 30, 34.
Didn't I send you a guy that was 4:11? Didn't I?
You said it was your age group though, right?
Yeah. I thought somebody went, because I was really, really surprised at how fast they went, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
you're probably looking at it.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, yeah. I was shocked by that because I was like, and for one, I didn't recognize any of those names. So like those top 5 guys in my age group were probably shocked as hell to be on the podium. Like never touched podium because I don't recognize any of those names, and I couldn't believe that.
Well, no, if I look at the overall winner, what name do you have? It's like John. Is his finish time not? Yeah, is it not 4:03:47?
Yeah, but what age group is he in?
It's 30 to 34.
Yeah, but I was just saying the overall winner went almost sub 4.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, so it's not like it was like a slow race overall. Like there were still fast times being thrown down. So why was literally my age group is typically one of the most competitive. Like to give you an idea, like Alaska, I was 4th in the age group and it was 10th overall, right? Like that's how deep my age group typically is. And this was, I couldn't believe the first place guy was 19th.
Yeah. Wow.
That was very, very surprising to me.
Yeah. 4:19 was first place in my age group. He was fast. I talked to him before the race. Actually, we started talking. He's a synergy athlete, and so we were chatting. I had no idea the guy was going to freaking throw down like that. But I beat him out of the water, so I was happy about that. I had a faster swim.
There you go.
But he is a hell of a cyclist. That guy blew the bike away and then ran like 6:30. So no hope. So yeah. So my takeaway is I've got to rebuild my run slowly. La Quinta in 4 or 5 weeks will be another long training day.
Oh, you're going to keep coming out to track, right? Track continues.
Yeah. Did I shoot you a message? I was going to.
You did. You sent me a note. And I was like, yeah, track continues even with the time change.
Well, I was curious. Do you run in the dark? What do you guys do once time changes next week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just run in the dark. Okay.
Yeah, running whatever light we have. I mean, the safety lights are on, so it's not like you're in pitch black.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't run track there before, so that was what I was curious. What happens when? Because I asked Sujin, I'm like, hey, do you guys run track all year long once it gets into November or whatever? She's like, I don't know. I think she stops between November and whenever.
Yeah, speed changes. Stops.
Yes,
during
no speed work
savings.
during. Yes, not allowed to be outside in the dark. But okay, well then, hey, I have no excuses. I will be back there, and I think you said to me I should run your sister's workouts, and I might have to take you up on that. She's gonna be like, get out of here, don't run with me. But I might start jumping in on her workouts because I think I might be able to keep up with her right now.
Yeah, I think that pacing is gonna be about right.
Yeah. So, and then California, we had a ton of people do California, and the weather was crazy up there. I mean, seeing some of the videos of people finishing in downpour.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So congrats to
all
like those folks.
Yeah. It seems like they had a nice morning, a little bit of rain kind of, in the later part of the bike and then pouring on the run. But, seems like everybody got through just fine and did great. And we had tons of people go under 10 hours. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tony, what were you going to say?
Don't start, Tony. I know because of the river.
No, you can't, because it doesn't make sense. You can't. Times mean nothing at this point. It's irrelevant. It's all in how did they do in the grand scheme of things compared to the competition at that race?
But it's hard because it used to mean something, right? It used to be I went sub 11, or if you went sub 10, that was a big deal. But now, or sub 5, but now courses like Oregon, all of these river, which is the topic. I mean,
yeah. So I'm already seeing, because there's some fast guys that were there, fast guys that I talked to that I'm close to. One guy went 8:49, and so it's his first sub 9. And he's like, sub 9 PR this swim. I'm like, I just lost fucking respect for you right there. I don't do that shit with Oregon.
I know. I
never
don't even count Oregon as a PR. No, it's not a legit swim.
It's not. So we just need to cut that shit out, right? It's so, I don't know, if you need that to stroke your ego, and if that's what you need to go, whatever sub 5, sub 6, whatever it is that, goal you have, if you need to do on this course and that makes you feel better about yourself, have at it. But it means nothing to me anymore. These times that I saw it at California, I'm just I lost a friend on Facebook over it because I said something on somebody else's post. That's how stupid.
No.
And, I mean, regardless of times, there were fast times. People put down, they were fast in the race, regardless of, when I look at folks that I personally know that were there, I was impressed with the times that they had. Yes, Rebecca, holy cow.
Hold on. Yes and no. Rebecca's a fucking monster. Dude.
Yeah. I didn't know. I didn't recognize.
Oh, I sent her a text. I always sent her a text the night before, and it was kind of like a pump up text, whatever. I usually send her something, and I was like, it's time to remind everybody who the fuck you really are. And man, she killed it. She was second in her age group, third overall female. God, she's one of the sweetest people you will ever meet on the course, but on course, fucking killer. Stay out of her way. It's just two completely separate people. And off course, she's probably on par with Michael as far as how sweet she is, it's crazy.
Yeah. But Ironman is obviously on to something, right? They know how to fill a race. They know how to sell out a race now. It just needs to have a downriver swim.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, that's why you have that new Washington race. We have so many now. We have the new Washington race. You have Oregon. You have Maine. You have Augusta. You have Chattanooga. You have California. I'm telling you, I was joking last week when I was talking about having a full down course Ironman, but I could see that in the realm of possibility in the next 2 to 3 years. Holy shit.
But to your, Tony and I were talking about it before the race. I mean, or during the race rather, you're still going to have fast people there. You know what I mean? Tony didn't understand why I was so hyped up on Dan Plews, who went under 8 hours, and it's a downriver swim and all that sort of stuff, but it's under 8 hours. I mean, give him a 30-minute buffer. That's insane.
No, but that's the thing. So here's my point: is a downriver swim does more than just give you time on the swim. You come out way fresher. You especially for an Ironman, that's 30 minutes less basically that you need to worry about nutrition, that you're not kicking, that you're saving your legs. You're fresher so much coming out. So it doesn't just benefit the swim. That's part of it. It shortens the whole day.
I understand.
So but that's why you can't just say, so just add 30 minutes to my swim and everything else. I would have done that anyway. Horseshit. That's not the way it works. Right?
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, there's a don't wanna
all I
say
do is add 10 minutes to my swim at Oregon. I know that I could do that time.
Yeah, totally.
No, I mean, there's for sure, I don't want to say a handicap, but there is like a buffer to what your real time probably is, right? But as I was telling Tony, we were having the discussion, like fast people want to go fast. You know what I mean? Like Dan Plews would have got first in that race no matter
regardless.
what. And, yeah. And, you know, I was one of Chris Sakas's buddies, Goo, who I want to try to get on. He was, gosh, I think he was sixth overall, and then fourth in his age group, and then missed Kona still. Do you know what I mean? So he already went though.
That's
he wasn't
brutal.
like too bummed. He had a great day. I mean, I can't remember what he was, like 4:40 on the bike or something, and then a 3-hour marathon. I mean, that's a great fucking day. So
yeah.
So is Rebecca the only one we know that got niece is, I guess, from a male perspective. Do we know any other male that got?
No. Yeah, Ralph didn't get anything, right?
No, because he was fifth, and they had 4 slots in each.
Such a
the
bummer.
4 took it. Yeah, but I mean,
they
like
got 4 in his age group.
Yeah,
because I saw it was only 25 spots or 26 overall, right, for the whole.
25. Yeah.
I mean, that
total might have been
30 to 34 only had. Yeah, it must have been because they only had 3 in that 30 to 34.
Okay, or maybe there was 3. And he said it went to the 4th.
Oh, okay.
That could be. Maybe they were already qualified.
Yeah.
Damn, that sucks too. Yeah.
It's tough.
He had a great day too. Ralph had a
phenomenal race.
Day.
Again, I think he surprised himself quite a bit. But Brol and I were talking before, and we kind of had his race pegged. I think Raul had it closer than I did because I still didn't think he'd go that fast. But I thought he'd run like a 3:35, and I think he went like 3:31, which. Again, I think that he surprised himself a bit there, and he biked his ass off. But again, that's a fast course. Like there's no doubt about it.
Totally is.
That's got to be the fastest course on the circuit, like without a doubt.
For a full, I think.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I felt like that swim had to have had a faster current than Oregon did, based on seeing some of the swim times.
Well, okay, so here's the other thing is. I think originally there were some people, not just in the OCE community, but they were saying like, oh, it's like, it doesn't seem like it's as fast this year. I said, well, that's kind of crazy considering we've had the most rain and flooding in 80 years. I mean, I was up in Yosemite in July and you weren't allowed to get in the river because the levels were so high and the currents were so fast. That also feeds into those rivers. So, I mean, levels were pretty high. That current was pretty fast. And I was looking at times from this year to last year, and it's considerably faster. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody, but
I will,
that Tony will, but that does play into it. Right. So, it was a really good year for the swim, especially.
I feel like, again, I think we talked about this. Like, I feel like it's something that everybody does when they do a race, like, oh, well, it wasn't as fast the year I did it, or it was windier the year I did it. It was so hot the year I did it. Right. Like it's always worse than what it really is when they did it. And I think this is going to be one of those things where like, oh, the current wasn't as fast as it was last year. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but it's, I could do the same thing, right? Like, oh, okay. The swim wasn't as fast for me, and then we had headwinds, but it's okay. Yeah, but you also get tailwinds too, right? So,
And did it rain last year like it did this year?
No, just winds.
Just wind last year.
Yeah, but that's the challenge of every course. You know what I mean? And we do the same thing with Kona, and we're like, well, the conditions were a little bit different. It's like, well, it is what it is. They got really great conditions, and
and that's why I always tell people, like, it's so hard to compare like races to different races, like even to different races, and much less like year to year, you can't even compare like the same race.
Right.
And so it's so hard when like, people are like looking at like previous results, and I'm like, you can't look at it that way. It's so difficult, especially like again, you just brought up Kona. And again, this is why I'm talking about like when they're comparing the women's Kona times to previous Kona times, it's a crapshoot. You just can't do that.
And it's course records being broken when the weather's the best, right? When the conditions are the best. And
that's obvious.
It could be years before that ever happens again. Even if you have faster, people are racing faster, but the conditions aren't allowing for it.
Right. Like I think the top 10 results from Kona are all from like 2022 and 2018 for the most part. Why? Because those are two very fast years condition wise. Oh, I'm sorry, like this past year and then 2018. So, but I hope Ironman starts to introduce more challenging courses again. The whole point of Ironman, I thought, was to challenge ourselves. To do something difficult, to do something that we felt was challenging.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day,
I agree.
It's supposed to be you versus you, right? But we lost Tahoe. We've lost Silverman. Right. Coeur d'Alene is now every 3 years. We lost Whistler. Mont Tremblant is now gone.
Are those because they weren't selling out and they weren't full?
But okay, so then why do you keep creating new races in different locations? Like they were selling out before until you flooded the market with, how many choices do people have now? There's just not that many triathletes to race all these events.
Right.
Before, like Ironman used to sell it. How back in the 40s when you used to race Ironman.
No, yes. I mean, you flew there, you volunteered, and that's how you got into certain races, right?
Right. I mean, Arizona, you basically had to volunteer to then sign up for the, and then line up to sign up for the following year because Arizona used to always sell out.
Yeah.
Ironmans used to sell out, but they don't because now you just have too many options. But again, my point being is like all these easy, and I will say easy, down river flat courses, it's all in North America. Name one course that's like that in the EU.
Yeah.
Like
it doesn't. They probably don't have the terrain.
Well, yeah, but again, why do you think Americans get our asses kicked anytime you leave the country?
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, we're just again catering to the lowest common denominator. I hate it. I cannot stand it. It makes me almost want to like just throw in the towel. And here's the other thing too is. I mean, and this goes for the whole, I guess, women in Kona thing too, is people are like, well, it doesn't affect the pointy end. It doesn't affect you. Why do you care? And it's, the thing is like, Kona's an achievement, right? If everybody has that same achievement, well, it degrades it. If you get an A in a certain class, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? We're going to start giving out A's for 70% and above. So anybody 70% above gets an A, but you busted your ass to get your A. How do you feel now? Your A just doesn't feel the same anymore, right? So like, is that what we want to do? It's essentially what you're doing. I don't know other like analogy. Like I could come with, I don't know how many analogies to try and speak to how it makes people feel and degrading their accomplishment, even though it doesn't affect what you have. It just means less.
Yeah, I agree. But I think at the end of the day, they're a business, right? They want to fill races and keeping championships small, keeping races around like Arizona that aren't very big. They don't have the participation. They want to fill races. So I don't know any other way around it.
I get that aspect of it, but you don't need to make the races easier in order to do that. So now you're making the races easier, making the qualification easier. Like, I mean, why even? Yeah. Why are we even racing anymore? Oh, let's just take the clock away. The clock hurts people's feelings.
We had to get rid of the mass start.
Yeah, let's just do it like Tough Mudder. Everybody's a winner. Everybody who crosses the finish line, congratulations. Here you go. You want to go to Kona? Sure, why not? Fuck it. Everybody's going.
I hear you. I mean, I personally haven't qualified for Kona, so I don't have the passion about it as much. I think, right, as strongly. I don't want to see it degraded. I do agree that at some point it becomes watered down. But
no Kona boner.
Yeah, but I don't know that I have any hopes of ever qualifying. So,
but it's not just that. Like I look at people who bust I look at Becca who busts her ass, right?
But does she care? I mean, you can't throw her out there really per se. But I think I made the comment the other day
Yeah, I'm not going to make an opinion for somebody else, but I know.
Why aren't all these women who, if they care, why aren't they all standing up and saying, "Hey, forget it, we're not racing. We're going somewhere else. We're going to go race some other PTO races only."
Because so here's the problem is people want to race against the masses, right? You want the competition, and Ironman has the competition, so that's where you go race, even though you're upset with the way that they're running things. You know. It's again, you could use that against any.
But do you think
situation.
they're just not voicing their opinion enough, or you think they are?
I think a lot of them are. Well, I think one, they're the minority, so people don't care, and two, they can't be too vocal because then they're going to be shit on and attacked for being haters or elitists or whatever else it is. It's like, why didn't all the swimmers, complain against the whole Leah Thomas thing and not swim and right like. It's the same thing. Like, you don't want to go against the grain in that situation and be attacked because of your viewpoint. So you stay silent. I think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, no, I could agree. I think when you look at comments on anyone that is promoting it, right, as being great, if anyone goes against that, female specifically, right? I always look specifically for female comments.
Because most can't have an opinion.
Well, no, because I want to see the females that are against that, right? I want to see their opinions. If they're saying, "Hey, it's becoming watered down," I want to hear their opinions and their arguments for it. And they are in the minority. They're not speaking up if they're upset.
Yeah, but it's the same thing against like the women at Boston who are saying that the women's qualification is too easy. We should make it more difficult. There's only a few women that are speaking that, but again, they don't want their field watered down. They don't want everybody to have that accomplishment. They want their A to mean something. That's all it is.
I hear you.
You're saying everybody, like most women in Boston, or you're saying just the elite field?
I'm saying like the elite, the pointier end. Yeah,
I was gonna say. I mean, I think a lot of the men also want it to be easier, right? They want to get into easily. But that's just from the standard age groups.
And we saw that at Nice, right? There were plenty of men that qualified at Nice that have never qualified before, right? That went to race that will not ever be in Kona.
Yeah. And again, I'm not just picking on the women, but Ironman's making it so easy. And that's where my anger is being directed. But the men in Nice kind of had the same situation. Or even like I was upset about St. George, the way they were handing out slots for St. George championship. And that wasn't even Kona. It's not like I'm directing it at just women. It's the way Ironman is running these championship events that are supposed to be prestigious, that are supposed to mean something.
Well, wasn't St. George, if you had happened to already registered for the race, you were in the World Championships at that point?
Right. That's the way it started because it was just a normal race at first.
Right.
And then after that, then they opened it up to all world athletes, right? All world athlete gold. If you were all world athlete gold, hey, guess what? Here's a slot. And then they still didn't fill it. So then they opened up to silver.
Right.
And then I had heard that they opened up to even bronze level. So
it was pretty wild. I mean, they were giving out slots left and right? Because they missed a lot of racing during COVID. So they just wanted everybody to, okay, pay up, let's make some money. And I remember my first Ironman in Texas, I went 11:21 or something like that. And I think I missed St. George by 2 slots. So, how competitive is that really? And then I saw some people doing the race and I was like, well, I should have just gone a little faster, dude. I'd be the world champs right now, like, I don't know. But they were hurting for money, I guess,
Yeah.
Weren't giving people back their fees when they deferred races and stuff. So, they were really hurting.
Yeah. And again, speaking of trying to fill races, you have the this shill Triathlete magazine that can we kind of talk about this real quick? Because we've been shitting on their articles lately. And this actually just speaks to what we've been saying is they are just a mouthpiece for Ironman. This is why I say, like, don't believe anything you're reading in Triathlete magazine. Most of it is crap, and they're paid just to write and say certain things. So just a week ago, you had the whole opinion of Dear Winter Triathlon claim the damn spot, right? Like, Data from the Women's 2023 Ironman World Championship makes one thing very clear. Women are crushing the triathlon game. Now what?
Why are you saying it like that, Tony? Why in that tone of voice?
Because I'm reading it. I'm reading it in Susan Lackey in her wording here.
In her tone.
And so yeah. So then we have a week later, what do we get? A new article from Triathlete Magazine. Ironman changes women's world championship qualification process. Underwhelming response for the women's Nice 2024 event leads to addition of slots at select 70.3 races and for loyal age groupers.
Yeah. Well, what was funny is we're at the race, right? Sujin got the email before, which I'm not sure, but she got it and started reading it to me. So I'm listening to what she's saying, and all I can think about is Tony and this podcast.
Being angry. You know, really grinds my gears
to find out when you're going to find the news out. And I'm sure Triathlete Magazine already had the article ready to go before the women even received the email that you could get in just about any way possible now. So
yeah.
But it's such a weird article to follow up with. You had the one that's like, take the spot. This is amazing. The women are growing. And it's like, well, we're having underwhelming responses. So it's, again, Ironman saying, hey, take the slot because we need to fill people. Like, we need to get people to fill this in. And then you come up with this article and going like, hey guys, don't you feel bad? You should probably take every slot. You know, again, we're going to let people start walking in here.
I'm kind of on the fence. I've thought about it kind of back and forth. The fact that they're offering spots to, it was a top 5 70.3 finishers, right? To women that may have never done an Ironman. And yes, a top 5 is probably more competitive and will do better at a world championship, but giving those women an opportunity to go to the world champs before someone that actually did do an Ironman that maybe is less qualified, but they actually have done an Ironman that year. And, you know, they put in the work, so I'm kind of on the fence on that one versus, giving them to 7.3s versus giving them just to a lower qualified and less qualified.
So you think Taylor Knibb shouldn't have been able to race Kona?
If she wanted to race Kona, she could have raced a full and got a spot. I think she could have.
Well, yeah, but in the scenario,
but that precedent has been there forever, right? That's been there forever. The world champ, the world champ gets in. That's yes, but to now open that up, and they'll probably do it for the men in 2 years from now, right? They're going to have to do the same thing. They had a hard time filling Nice. It's going to be that way for a while.
Well, we already saw that, right? I mean, they were emailing 6 months after Ironman California last year going, hey, we're rolling down some more slots. You might get one.
Yes and no. So the problem is they already had so many races that had been completed and that were able to defer. And they had like 1,200 male athletes that had already taken slots to Kona that they then deferred and rolled out then to Kona next year, 2024. And so you had all those races that should have been Nice slots, essentially, that nobody took Nice slots for the most part. And so this next year, you're going to have all those races offering, not this next year, but in 2 years, you'll have all those races offering Nice slots, which those people will know up front. I'm signing up for Nice, and they'll be able to then get rid of those slots. I don't think we'll have such a problem as the women.
With that case is I'm surprised they didn't, and maybe they didn't, and I don't know. I'm surprised they didn't offer those folks that deferred the opportunity to pay and go to this world championship as well if they need to fill slots and they want high level athletes there. Oh, so you had the chance to defer and take. Yes. So you could have got both. Okay, I didn't realize that.
My buddy Roger is Legacy, and obviously he wants to do Legacy in Kona, and they moved it, and so then they said, well, you can defer it. Or you can race both. So you can go and race Nice and you'll still be able to do Legacy and race the following year in Kona. And he just turned it down. So so that was an option for some people. I think for somebody who has the financial means to do that and make that happen, I wouldn't see why they wouldn't have taken it. But back to this this latest article from Triathlete Magazine. There's a quote in here from Andrew Messick that I love because it's basically what I've been saying. But I get shit on for saying this because it sounds like I'm hating on women. But the quote is, "It doesn't have to be as hard as it used to be to get to Kona, where for many women age groups you had to win to get there, but there should be some exclusivity about qualifying for a world championship." That's exactly what the hell I'm saying. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying.
But that article, that quote is in the article where they're now announcing all these other ways to qualify.
Correct.
Which is strange.
Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew when that came through, it was going to be fun discussion.
But I mean, as you were saying, Chris, like, we're kind of beating a dead horse here. I mean, it doesn't affect our lives too much. And it's like,
it doesn't. But again, it just seems like every week there's something new with this that stirs the fucking pot and then gets me agitated again. And it reminds me of this shitty situation that we're in Ironman. And it drives me crazy.
I think we just need to get over it. Nothing we can do.
I think they also admitted, maybe it was Andrew, wasn't there something in there about, we know that it's going to take time, right? That this is an attempt to grow it. And there was some language in one of those articles almost speaking to, we know that it's not the same level, but this is our attempt to grow the women's participation. And that is where I argue, regardless of who's there, I'm really over that, honestly, at this point. But the argument that adding these slots are going to grow women's participation in triathlon or Ironman, I don't see that as being what's going to grow the sport, right? I mean, most of the people I know, right, other than very few, Tony, there's very few, right, that used to go to Kona. Most people are doing Ironman for other reasons. They didn't get into Ironman to go to Kona. So I don't know that the fact that there's now 1,000 more spots, right, that whoever, is going to now jump into Ironman and have a dream of qualifying for Kona.
Yeah, I don't see that either, right? I think most people that we're doing it again as a challenge, as a bucket list item, because their friends were doing it. A lot of these clubs and tri clubs in the area, and so they're getting people. I mean, they're the ones who's really creating the demand. Like clubs like 3P, who's just
they're bringing people into the sport.
Yeah, and because now spouses are racing, which you don't really see that, and right. I mean 3P is probably the best example of that I can use locally. Who's just grown beyond measure in such a quick amount of time. And there are other clubs in the area, but not growing at the rate that 3P is. And I think racing at the level that they are, and by that I don't mean by speed, but I mean just in growth numbers, so it's not like they're all just out there training. They're actually all out there participating in events.
Yeah. And what they do, 3P is pretty incredible. One, their apparel is really inexpensive, right? You're getting a ton of gear when you join for $70 or $80, and they're holding a ton of their own races, right, that you can go participate in. I mean, I don't understand how they're doing it, how they're making money at what they're doing, but they are growing it. And that's where I look at maybe Ironman should be putting efforts in around the country in growing, if they're really interested in growing women's participation.
Yep.
How do you grow these social communities within large populated areas?
Yep.
Things like that.
There should be something where like Ironman helps funding in these larger groups in certain demographics in certain cities. And that basically allows these clubs to then go out and be, an arm of Ironman essentially, and help grow the sport, which what Ironman wants.
Right.
If they're not going to go on
like right now, their club benefits are pretty BS, honestly. Right. I signed OCE up to be a club and thinking, oh my God, if we have so many racers at a half Ironman, we'll get a slot, then we can give that away. I mean, the reality is you have to have like 17 people in a race, or 24 people or something like that at a single 70.3.
A single race?
A single race, not 24 in a year and you get a spot to give to one of your club members. It's 24 in one race. So how many clubs have more than 24 in general, right? And how many have 24 going to a single race, right? You've got, that's where you get Varlo and Zoot and all these major manufacturers, which again, why are you benefiting the fucking manufacturers, right? You should be benefiting the real clubs, not someone who's manufacturing and selling gear and creating ambassadors, which are truly nothing but people that are paying you to buy your own gear. Those should not be clubs, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So. Yeah, I mean, there's no community outreach, right? Like, why isn't Ironman showing up to a 3P unsanctioned race and being like, hey, here's this and that. You guys know about these races or that race or anything like that. And it's also a great way for them to get out in the community and go, well, where are we getting a lot of interest? Because maybe we should look at doing a race there. Like, it's pretty surprising to me that there's no like LA County, Orange County, 70.3. Or, I mean, I know there's Oceanside, but I mean, it seems like there's pretty big participation in these areas, right?
Even their Tri-Club Finder is crap, right? You can go on there and like find a Tri-Club, and they list maybe 30 in Orange County. 28 of those are dead links, right? There's not even a method of like every year you've got to re-qualify or just something to help promote the clubs that do exist. So
yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, but now I don't know. It's interesting to see, organizations like PTO who don't really, they don't put on age group races, right? They have to slide in with the USA Nationals or Challenge or something like that. And you're like, well, what's that business model like? Like, how are you going to make money? How are you going to get people involved in the race and get excited?
They did host one, right? Or was that with someone else? The one up in Edmonton, wasn't that? Or was it Dallas? Yeah.
Edmonton as well last year, but they're just like not an events company or something. So now, I don't know, I think they're trying to work with World Triathlon or whatever to start drawing people there. And
I mean, it's definitely a defocus for them, right? I mean, if they're extremely focused on what they're doing, I can see that it would be a huge, take a huge toll on resources to try and now stand up events to compete with Ironman. I mean, they're doing a great job with the pros, right? They're competing with the pros for sure.
But it's like how do you get people in?
Yeah. How do you continue? I've been saying that forever, right? Unless you still have these very rich people who love triathlon and are giving you tons of money to try and build this, how do you continue to spend the amount of money you're spending on media and all of these things, hosting these amazing events, if you're not making money?
I remember seeing last year when they did Dallas, some of the pros were like giving away last minute, not giving away, but heavily discounted entry fees to the PTO races as an age grouper. And I think it was $250 to race. And I was like, oh man, how does that work out with my schedule? I could jump on a flight and get out there and race, middle distance. And with all these pros, that'd be really fun. And then they just stopped doing races. And now they're just in places where other races are going on. I don't know how that works. I don't know how can they continue that and pay these pros $100,000 for the winner each race. And it's an odd business model to me, but
yeah, I don't know if the sponsorship, I've always said, I don't know that the sponsorship dollars are there to continue putting that kind of money out. And
not right now.
Will the PTO be around in 5 years, 10 years?
Well, it will be as an organization for the pro athletes, but not as a events company, right? They won't be putting on any races.
This is a good segue if you want to move into the new Ironman Championship Series.
Yeah. I mean, obviously what they're doing is working, right? Because they're putting pressure on Ironman that they've had to step up now.
Well, it's great. I mean, if Ironman steps to the table with this, that's pretty incredible. And now you've got competition, like you're saying, of, well, how do you pick your season? How do you choose a PTO race, which I don't think any of those are out yet, right? Theoretically, I think Singapore is supposed to be around, or not Singapore, whatever the first race is supposed to be around Oceanside, but there's nothing on that. And Ironman already has the whole list out. It's going to be really, really interesting to see who shows up to what.
Austin, do you want to give a little background on what this new series is?
Yeah. So Ironman recently, a day or two before Kona, for the women, introduced this new championship series that the pros within the Ironman ecosystem are now able to compete in a series of races And I believe it's 10. So correct me on if you guys have the actual info. It's 10 races, I believe, 5 fulls, 5 halves. And they all have essentially a point system where you can accumulate points. And whoever has the most points at the end of the year, I believe that top finisher gets $200,000, and then it drops down from there. But Tony, do you have the numbers on? I think it's like 11 through 20 get at least $20,000, something like that.
I don't recall the exact numbers. I just know the overall number is double what the PTO is offering. Like they made it a point to double
for
the overall
but that's for a single race, right? A single PTO race, or is that wrong? Is the 100,000 not
in total?
It's the bonus at the end of the year. Like it's equivalent to like the bonus that the PTO gives at the end of the year. Ironman's doing the same bonus at the right. Yeah.
Right. But the per race PTO race win is still
but this
really
is
high.
This is all on top of your earnings at any of these races as well, right? So it's now become, okay, you're a professional athlete. Let's start treating you like a professional athlete. And so it's again, they were feeling pressure from PTO to start paying their athletes. So they picked a series, and now we're going to have some sort of storyline. You're not going to have everybody at every one of these races. Like with PTO, since it's 100K, you're going to get a lot of people racing almost all 5 or 4, however, I think it's 5 races for the PTO. You're probably not going to get everybody racing these. And there's a point system where full Ironmans are, I believe, more than double the point allotment if you complete and place high on those compared to a 70.3. So now, as we were saying, it's interesting to see how athletes are going to choose their season. I know Oceanside is the first event on this list for Ironman, and that's always a hugely popular race, not just between age groupers but also with the pros. So now you're like, okay, if I have Oceanside and Singapore's 2 weeks later or something like that, how am I gonna work this out?
What will be interesting to see is, does that pull in some of the Europeans to race some of these US races, which they haven't necessarily done in the past?
Well, and to your point, how do you choose? Everybody's going to want a piece of this pie. So where do you stop the field? Are we going to have a 50 male pro field, a 125 pro male field? There's only so many people that you can allow on this course, right? Especially at Pendleton, they're not just going to let, more and more people. There's a certain number of athletes they allow on that course. So I was listening to a couple podcasts, and I listened to one with Andrew Messick, and I guess what they're going to try to do is do sort of a loyalty system, who puts their name on a start list and actually shows up, who puts their name on a start list and withdraws last minute with no intention of racing, and kind of put those people higher on their list. But they're going to have some sort of ranking system too, kind of like the PTO does. I'm excited to watch it, because now you have people like, Tony's boy T-Foles, he's going to start probably getting into, full distance, and he's got a chance to make a lot of money. I can't remember who did it, but somebody essentially did the rankings based on this series for this year. So 2023 results and how people would have finished. And I believe Matt Hansen for the males was number 1. So you're like,
that's
Matt
interesting.
Hansen. Like,
well, what's cool is it really does open up opportunity for that next tier athlete to possibly make some money at the end of the year.
Yeah. So it pays out top. I have it up here now. It pays out top 50. The overall payout is 1.7 million for the series.
For both men and women, or just the men's side? And then, because it's equal pay for both,
it's equal pay. Yeah.
So they were able to use all of that extra money from women registering for the world championships to pay the pro athletes.
Look at that.
You complaining now? Now you complaining?
Killing me. So the top 10 total payout is $650K. And then the 11 through 50, they basically split $200K evenly. Right.
So 200K. That's a bonus, right?
40 spots.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
So that's really good money. And also, I know Andrew was also saying he expects this to also take time, because the whole idea is they're going to get hopefully get more sponsors on board for this so that they can pay more or even pay deeper into the field, so that they have, we've got a roster of pro athletes that are our pro athletes and we take care of them. So I think it's probably going to be about a year, maybe 2, to where people can start following a storyline and sponsors are like, oh, okay, this is cool. We can spend a little bit more time here. We're willing to pay a little bit more here. So it's PTO is the one who started it. And then this is just all great for the sport, really.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think it's good that the pressure, what they've been doing is forcing Ironman, which I think everybody's always said, right? They don't really take care of the pros. So some of them get paid. You got to be able to make a living.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the cost of races and how much everything has increased to race in Ironman over the years versus how much has the prize purses for pros increased over the years, it's definitely not linear. So, they've been pocketing quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tony, when you were running with your boy T-Foles this weekend, did he talk about that at all?
I can't, divulge conversations between good friends.
Yeah, we didn't even really talk about the fact that Nadia was racing Trevor Foley's girlfriend and that you were hanging out with Trevor. So
that ended up working out pretty well. So Nadia had originally was going to race the 70.3 based on the heat and the stupid start times that Alpha Wind had decided upon, which I thought was ridiculous. And they weren't really going to move from that. Kind of decided that it would be best if she just moved down to the Olympic distance. And then, basically she had her own goals for that as well, wanting a PR in that distance, a lifetime PR, and see what she could push on the bike for that distance. I mean, there were still goals in place, but she did decide to move down to that distance. And even so, the Olympics started at 8:30. It was already like
so
86 degrees or something like that.
Was there a reason it started so late?
I'm not exactly sure. They started the 70.3 went off at 7, and then they had the sprint go, and then they had the Olympic go, and then they also had like a duathlon, and they had like an aqua bike. They have multiple events. And
do you think they were trying to align the closures of the course more closely together in a way so that they could close the roads, everybody be on the run, everybody be finishing about the same time?
I don't know, because the run was all inside the park, right? Like,
so it didn't really matter.
So it didn't matter from that. So it was really just the bike. And if you were starting the 70.3s at 7, basically everybody should be out on the bike, or at least you're going to have to close those roads within 30 minutes of that anyway. So why not literally just almost do a mass start at that point? Like, hey, we're going to, obviously we all know the heat is going on right now. It's going to get hot today. So we want everybody to start everybody as soon as possible. We're going to make this adjustment. It's going to be a little uncomfortable in the water. You're going to be fighting through some more bodies, but you're basically going to suffer less at the end of the day. And that didn't happen.
Now, are those mass starts or rolling?
Nope. So each distance is a mass start. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not even by age group
No, it's by gender. So they do, they let off the 70.3 men first, and then they give them like 5 minutes, and they start off the 70.3 women. And then they do that per each event. But there's only like maybe 40 to 50 people in like most of these events anyway. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they could have done one large wave essentially to get everybody going and going early. But yeah, so back to, I guess, the original point here is we had started, we got there, and as I'm walking transition, I look over and I see someone who looks like Trevor and Trevor Foley. So, kind of like, is that him? And I walked over and I got closer and I saw like the TFR shirt on. And so then I was like, Trevor? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, how's it going? I introduced myself and we started chatting a little bit. And he obviously had mentioned that he was there to support his girlfriend if I was racing. And I told him no. I was obviously in transition, so that's why he asked the question. And I told him like kind of same thing. I'm supporting. I'm here as Sherpa. And then I actually had the Lionel shirt on, And so he had made a comment about the shirt, and then we kind of talked about, Lionel a little bit, and then they got into gym and aero testing, and we were kind of like in our own little world there for a bit. And then his girlfriend kept, kind of like asking questions and stuff. And then he's like, "Hey, I got to get, sit down." I was like, "Yeah, me too. I got to go, basically help out, make sure she's all situated." And so he's like, let's touch base when they're in the water. And so I was like, all right, cool. So we kind of went off and did our thing. And then as Nadia and his girlfriend is Sophie. And so as they got in the water, we linked up again and just start chatting pros. And, he talked a little bit about what was going on with them. And we talked about the Pro Series, and talked a little bit about the Laidow situation, which we'll get into after this. And
so when's he coming on the pod?
Yeah, I don't know about all that one. But he's like, what are you doing after this? And I was like, well, my thought is once they jump out on the bike, it's such a short bike, I really can't see anything. I'm gonna go out for a run. And he's like, well, do you mind if I join you? And I was like, no, like not at all. So
do you say if you can keep up?
Yeah, no, actually. So when we were about to start, and because we actually had to go to our cars to change or whatever, and I walked over to him and I was like, all right, take it easy on me now, right? I'm still just an age grouper, so don't. And he's like, no, it's just easy. I'm not in season, right? This is just kind of to get the legs moving. I was like, all right, cool. He's like, just you set the pace and we'll keep it together. And so we just kept it conversational. And so did a quick. I originally wanted to run 6, but he wanted to cut it down to 4. So we just had a quick little 4 mile on the run course because nobody was really on it yet, and had a good
quick
conversation.
Little 4 mile at 5:40 pace, trying to show off.
No way, dude. I think if we touched like 7:30s, that might have been good. Remember, at this point too, it's over 100 degrees at this point.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And we're like, holy shit, they're going to be suffering. Like we're just thinking like this sucks for us, man. But man, they're going to be hating life when they get off. And so. Go ahead.
When you said that, you messaged us this weekend. You're like, oh, I ran with Trevor. I was like, oh, it's cool. In my head, I'm just imagining like you guys got up early for a run or something, and he happened to be running where you were running like a 6:30 and at like an aerobic pace. And Tony's like, oh, I think that's him. And Tony's just trying to run him down. Comes up, hey, what's up, dude? Like all calm. I don't know.
Just goes running by him.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
On your left.
Yeah.
Coming on your backside.
God.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No. So we just had a good run, and then cleaned up, changed, and then got ready for our significant others to kind of come through. And when we were talking, it was funny because she's raced a few times, and I think she took first in her age group at a 70.3 in Maine. I think Maine or Augusta. It was one, but it was a downhill swim, right? Down current swim. And he was talking about how she hates, like she doesn't swim very well. If he can get in the water twice, it's a good week. And I was like, yeah, if I can get Nadia in the water once a week, it's a good week. So, we're in the same boat here. And so like the first place girl came out in like, 26 minutes, something like that. And then Sophie came out, I think 4 minutes behind her. And then Nadia was like another 4 minutes behind her. And so I'm like, that's kind of what I expected. So, all right, like time to do work on the bike run now. And so I think she was like 12th. I mean, I'm going to get this all wrong now. She's going to get mad. Maybe she was 10th out of the water. And then biked her away. It sucked too, because there's like no intermediate splits. So literally like once they go on the bike, I don't know anything until they come back. And I knew kind of what she was timing wise looking for, but she came back in off the bike in second, and she was 5 minutes behind that girl Sophie. And Trevor.
So Sophie was leading the race off the bike.
Yes.
When Nadia came off. All right.
Yeah. So she basically caught and passed all the other women that were in front of her. I think she might have been like 5th out of the water, 6th out of the water. And so first come in transition, Trevor's talking to her and then like runs off with her up and over the hill. And I'm like, all right, well, how much time do we have, like before Nadia gets here? And as Nadia's coming in and I'm talking to her, like, okay, you're in second. Third place was like right behind her at this point, like literally like 5 seconds behind her. And then as I'm telling Nadia like the information that she needs, I look over and like Trevor's running back towards me, like, hey, like, and so then I told Nadia what I need to tell her, and I run off because I want to get back to like the midpoint between aid stations. And I think when Trevor ran off with Sophie, he started her off too hot. I think he might have just been like trotting along, and she was trying to stay with him at that pace. And again, by this point, it's over 100 degrees. It's got to be like 102, 104, something like that. It was oppressing. And so yeah, Nadia's 5 minutes back, and then I think on the way back, Trevor mentions to me, he goes, "Oh, after the first loop, that Sophie had gone a little bit further to the wrong turnaround and probably added like 0.2 of a mile to her run." And I was like, "Oh, that's going to eat that 5 minutes quite a bit." And so now I'm like, this is going to get interesting now, because otherwise, like, it's a 10K. Like how hard is it to make up 5 minutes in a 10K? And also, she ran collegiately, so it's not like she's a weak runner by any means. But yeah, that I think that 0.2 was like just enough to bring Nadia like within like more visual distance. And so by that first lap, I think she was only like 3 minutes down. And then Nadia was running strong, and that last lap like went out. And by going back out on the towards the last lap, it cut down to like maybe 1:30. And then Trevor went and ran towards the finish line. He was like, "Hey, I'll see you after the race once they're done, and we'll catch up." And I was like,
so he realized that his girlfriend, your girlfriend, were battling it out.
Yeah. We knew this coming off the bike, like, and we knew it was kind of going to be that from the start. But knowing Sophie's background, I knew it was going to be quite a challenge for Nadia. But I think two things really played in her favor. Was one, Sophie screwed up that turnaround distance the first lap, and two, she went out too hot and was just like falling apart coming back in. And so yeah, Nadia caught her at the back end turnaround. And so as I'm waiting, I was expecting to see Sophie first, and I was gonna give her some ice because I had a cooler with me. I was gonna try and help her out a little bit. And I see Nadia's kit coming, and I'm confused a bit by this. And so I run over to Nadia, and I'm like, all right, give her some information, talk to her, and I'm like, just move your ass, basically, like, get, you're almost there, get going. I'll see you at the finish. And then I ran towards the car, dropped off the cooler and dropped off whatever I could, and then grabbed some things for Nadia that I think she wanted at the finish, and then like try and sprint to the finish to capture some video. I couldn't get there before Nadia, so I didn't get any video of that. But we got there almost like identically. And then, Sophie ended up being like 40 seconds back. So
wow, it was
a good race overall. Like, fun to see, fun to be a part of, fun that it was somebody we kind of knew per se, right? And so and then we talked a bit afterwards and stuff, and that's when we had basically exchanged some info, and so hopefully be in contact soon.
To be matching up your race schedules for next year.
Yeah, totally. Well, so apparently, she came out. So Sophie came out there to like recon because she's going to do La Quinta, and he's saying he's probably going to do La Quinta as well. So he was just, again, kind of being in the area and checking it out because they drove from Arizona.
So are you going to La Quinta now to cheer?
No, I'll be at CIM.
Oh yeah, you're going to CIM.
Yeah,
it's cool. Dude, I'll be there. I'll fill in.
There you go. Yeah, he asked. He's like, "Oh, you gonna race La Quinta?" And I was like, "Man, I really wanted to, but I got CIM." And he's like, "Man, I really wanted CIM, but I got La Quinta." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And there we are.
So did you talk just mad shit to him at the finish line, or
what was that?
Did you talk just mad shit to him at the finish line, or how did that go?
Come on, no, we were
gracious winners.
Yeah,
right? Right.
Totally cool. Everything was totally cool. But it was nice, awesome. Like, because we were all like, obviously we're dressed as we're cheering them on during the swim and stuff, and then as we both go to change, we show back up and we're both just in shorts and a hat and glasses. So I was like, yeah, that's somebody matches my outfit. I appreciated it.
Well, that's awesome. So you guys talked a little bit, you don't have to share the info, but you talked a little bit about the Laidow situation, which is quite interesting. I mean, it's kind of an interesting transition to just laying it out there and accusing everyone or throwing everybody's name out there that might be accusing him. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation. I mean, Austin was the first one to kind of bring it up of like, hey, did you guys see this? And, trying to look into it and research a little bit more. That's a really interesting situation. Like, so for those not familiar, Laidow basically went full scorched earth on IG and basically called out a bunch of people for claiming or making accusations that he's doping, and there's now an investigation by the ITA on him.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was more. He felt it was more than just somebody saying they think he dopes, right? He felt specifically they were emailing and trying to get investigations going, right?
Yeah. So but what had happened is that Rodolfo Vonberg, Rudy's dad, he sent around an email to several people who are also in the sport accusing Sam Laidow of doping. I don't know what was the tip off or whatever, right? But this
obviously it got back to him.
What's that?
Obviously it got back to him.
Yeah. So someone who was on that email leaked it back to Sam. And so Sam goes and, like Tony said, just kind of blasted everybody by name, talks about Rudy's dad by name, talks about a Daniel, and we were kind of thinking it was Backegard, but we really don't know. He doesn't say any last names on that person, but essentially, and then he kind of does a weird, I don't know if you'd call it backhanded, or, he just says sorry that you and your son can't live up to, what I am, or something like that. It was kind of, I don't know, kind of lame, but I mean, I understand being upset for having accusations. Having said that, being at the top of the sport, you're going to always be accused of things like that. So giving it light is very weird. And then day later, he takes down the post and says, "Oh, I just wanted to show everybody that that's not cool and I'm trying to stop it. I don't want to have any hate in this community, so I'm taking it down." I was like, well, he obviously
got some feedback from some influential or important people.
Well, he's obviously never
maybe some sponsors.
Doesn't have a PR person in his corner, because it's like, what the hell are you doing? Just let him be. Who cares? It's a weird response to have. It's this really overly defensive.
He went full Lance Armstrong.
Right. So it's like, well, if I'm going down, I'm going to take everybody with me type of response. I don't know if that's true. I hope to God, for the sake of our sport, it's not true, right? We've already had enough incidents this year.
Whether you dislike him or not, I hope he's not doping.
Right. And so I really disliked that, A, he went with that response, and then B, he takes it down. So you're like, well, you made a terrible response, but now you're going to take it down, like one way or the other here, man. So it's very odd to name people by name and specifically call them out. And I mean, come on, you don't think Jan's been, accused of this sort of thing? Maybe not to that degree. Maybe I don't know what the email said. Maybe we can get our hands on it. I don't know what the email said. I don't know.
Tony, get to work, Tony.
Yeah, I don't know who else was involved, but I'm sure everybody who's been in this position has been accused. It's not like you're special, and it's an odd response to have, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Well, but from what I hear, this isn't the first time where I've heard rumblings about Sam. So more so than any other like top athlete in our sport, I'll say. I'm not that well connected by any means. And so for me to be hearing a lot of this, I think it's, it's sad. It's sad to hear. I'm with you. Like, I don't really care for the guy, but I hope he's not, because again, it takes so much credibility away from our sport. We already know how much goes on in the age group ranks. And so I'd hope that, the pro ranks are a little more well monitored, and it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of this. I'm curious. So.
Yeah, I mean, if it's all accusations and there's no evidence, and now they're opening up an investigation, I mean, unless there's actual evidence, he's been tested plenty of times. So,
yeah, but I don't think the testing that we have testing is always going to be a step behind.
Right, right. So what do they do with this investigation? How do they? Unless it's other people, right? And I mentioned this. He has a really tight circle. Right. It's a very family business there. So,
but he also called out Clement Mignon, the other French athlete. And I guess at the end of the race in Nice, that, they do the drug testing right after. And they were like, oh, hey, we need you to give us a sample or something. And Sam's girlfriend said, or I don't know if it's fiance, whatever, made a bad joke. And again, I was saying this is a terrible sense of humor. It's not even like it's a bad joke. It's just like, well, that wasn't funny. But she said, oh yeah, you better go give him that sample because, you're on so many drugs, something to that effect, but very blatant. Like, oh, people are saying you're doping, but you're clearly not. And it's like, well, that sounds like a shitty joke altogether, but I don't know why you'd say that type of thing. So obviously there's, like Tony said, there's been allegations before. So he also called out Clem. So that's another person. You're like, well, you're just stacking that enemy list. Right. So
I joke about you doping all the time though.
It's not a joke, dude. It's real.
There you go. See?
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see like if he's already been feeling this and dealing with this even prior to winning, right? He mentioned Rudy's mom, and who knows what, his feet grew too much or whatever, right? I mean, I could see the joke being thrown out there. I mean, it's like, yeah, you better go.
I'd like some context on I'd like some context on like how much did his feet grow? Like, are we talking like he went from like
it was like half a size or something.
Oh,
it wasn't anything crazy.
It was like a 9 to a 12 or something, like
right.
Yeah, exactly.
So the weird thing is, but yeah, I mean, back to the joke thing real quick. I was just saying like that's a shitty joke, like that, like she should have made a better joke. Like there's a better opportunity there. I don't know. I don't like him, so that's just where that stems from. But he made the comment and then he started defending each and every individual point. He said, oh, to the growth thing, I was training so hard from the ages of 15 to 18 and I was malnourished. So I stopped growing. So at 18, I went back home and I got healthy. And then my body just continued to start growing. Like, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. Like if you're malnourished in those really important stages of your life, you're going to have, you're going to be sort of stopped or capped. It's not just like your body's like, cool, we're back to healthy.
But do people have growth spurts later in life?
Not like that.
Half a shoe size?
Well, I mean, I don't think this is specifically just the shoe size. I'm talking like weight and height and those sorts of things. Yeah,
because I'm curious what data are they pulling this from? Where do they? Because he specifically talked about shoe size, right? So it's like, how does anyone know if you went up half a shoe size, right?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. But when you have a meteoric rise like this, and yes, it's meteoric. I mean,
I've gone up half a shoe size in the last 10 years, right? I think shoes are just getting smaller. I now run in 12 and a halves. I used to run in 11s.
Well, I mean,
it's all those drugs.
That's right. But, with weight gain, like you might need a wider shoe or anything like that too, right? So if he's putting on weight, that's a possibility. So I don't know. It's just a weird, very defensive, position to take on all of this. And then he starts calling people by name and you're like, well, which is great. If that's the card he's going to play and that's the character he's going to be, do it. Like, go for it.
He's going to play into that villain character some more.
Why not? and then he just goes, I don't know, back down really hard and was like, oh, I took down the post because I don't want to build a hate community. And it's like, okay, well, you're talking about the thing you just did. You already did it. You're already creating a hate community. This doesn't help. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought it was a bad move altogether. So, But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the specific allegations are. And again, just because it's a drug tested sport doesn't mean it's drug free. Do you know what I mean? So there's easy ways to get around this sort of thing. I don't think they're knocking on people's doors every month at 2 a.m. to randomly test somebody. I don't think that's happening. I think they're testing around the races. It's kind of like, college football and those sorts of things. It's like, hey, you guys are going to be drug tested in 2 weeks. So just a heads up, that drug test is coming in 2 weeks, like I don't think they really care too much. So, but
yeah, I mean, like you guys mentioned, like his circle is very tight, and he obviously doesn't have a PR person within that circle. That's very, very evident. The other thing is, like, he does kind of fit the profile though of a doper. That's the sad part is, and so I think he's an easy target. Like,
can you elaborate
tight circle?
On that? What do you
like? Tight circle. Okay. Very like everything is family based. He's up in the mountains, trains on his own. Nobody can really, nobody really knows. The clinic he's tied to is a little sketch. There's still the whole situation where after Colin got popped, and then remember he just he pulled out a race because he was moving all of a sudden, and that raised eyebrows across the board.
He was supposed to race challenge. What challenge was it? I can't remember.
But they've definitely documented his injury, right? Even that video, they talk a lot about his injury.
Yeah.
So.
Well, but he was supposed to race this weekend, and then he pulled out, and he was the bike leg of a relay instead of doing the whole thing. So you're like, and he also said it's because of, like you said, a foot injury. It's like, well, you chose the bike. Like, wouldn't the swim, which you're probably the best at in this field, wouldn't that be the activity you choose to do if you have a foot injury? Like that's odd,
And
not
then
like, I don't know.
He had a terrible race at one event. Did he? I can't remember. He was it Roth?
At one
Roth
or several?
Was it no? Is Roth where like he said he had pulled his calf muscle or tore his calf muscle, but then raced
his calf.
But then raced 2 weeks later.
Miraculously back like 3 weeks later, and somebody I think that's when Daniel Backegard made a comment, or Jan or somebody did, because they were like, wait, you said you tore your calf? Like, that's a pretty serious injury and you're back 4 weeks. And they're like, oh, we were surprised. So either at Roth, he was just being soft and was like, oh, I have a cramp, I'm going to say I tore my calf and it wasn't that serious. Or he's, I don't know, taking stem cells or something.
Right. So, and here's the conversation that I had was, apparently, like, if you're in the top, top 3, you're automatically tested. If you fall below that, it's random. So you do your race, and then once you get to a certain point, oh, I'm injured, let me let up. I'm no longer in the top 3. I'm not going to be guaranteed tested. Now it's just a whim. You finish that race, you're obviously not injured, and then you can race again once you're clean and take a victory somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's all especially because of his performances, right? He's occasionally great, not consistently good. You know what I mean? So most of these top end athletes, when they show up to a race, they're a threat. With Sam, you're like, could win, could pull out, DNF, come dead last, who knows, right? So I don't know. That plays into it too. I don't think there's a lot of like really solid training going on, if you will, like day to day, day in, day out, where he's building this fitness. And maybe that's why his body breaks down. He's putting out these really hard performances that his body can't handle. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah. And also, like, I wonder what the criteria or threshold is to be able to start an investigation. You can't start an investigation based off of rumors or based off of an email request. Right. So there has to be something that's there for them to be like, okay, yeah, we'll start an investigation on this. You know what I'm saying? Like, otherwise you could just be a dick and do that to anybody.
I had a question about that too, because my question was, well, what do you mean investigation? Like, somebody accused you and now other people are asking, or you're saying Ironman is launching an investigation, or PTO or WADA or SADA or whatever.
Yeah, didn't he list I was driving when I saw that, and it was so small, right? I couldn't read all of it, but did he call out who was investigating in that text? There wasn't like an acronym or something in there as to there's an investigation.
It's the ITA.
Okay. Yeah. I thought there was
body
an
is
acronym.
that? Is that Ironman's body? Don't they use USADA?
No, it's the International Testing Agency.
So
Okay.
who are they affiliated with? Because doesn't Ironman use USADA?
I don't know. Maybe it's something in France.
Oh, like an Olympic type of or national federation type of thing.
Potentially, I don't know.
Yeah.
If they police their own athletes, right? Their own pro athletes, maybe that's the body.
Well, I mean, again, I hope they have an investigation, nothing comes of it, and he was just accused, and he just kind of looked like a jackass a little bit, and so did the other people. But it's just odd all around. But of course, it's going to come after a world championship win, especially by that margin.
Yeah, I certainly hope it's not the case, because I don't think it's good for the sport at all. No. And I think, he, in general, I think he is somewhat polarizing. So I think he is good for the sport in that sense, right? You get
100%. Yeah.
Get that rivalry going, even amongst fans, whether you like him or not. So last thing you want to see is him go away. Because Colin was one of those guys that I don't think anyone disliked, right? It was just blown away when at least when I found out, right? So
he came out of nowhere and wins a PTO race, right. and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna get tested now." So
I hope it's I definitely hope it's not true.
Yeah, I don't know. It is really shitty that a parent of an athlete does this, and by the way, Rudy Vonberg Jr. has totally condemn the whole actions by his father, so he's not on board with that. That's probably really important to say.
So he publicly came out and said that?
Yeah, that's what he's been going around in circles saying, I'm not okay with this. And I guess Rodolfo just acted on his own accord without asking anybody, who also he needs a PR team apparently. And he was sending this email to people that he's never met before. He just got a list of emails of athletes and coaches and things like that, and just starts emailing everybody this list or allegations or whatever his report, if you will, says.
Yeah, you got to wonder what bad blood has existed there for a while.
Well, he's also a French athlete himself, right? So
a real French athlete?
Yes, Rodolfo's from France. Yeah, so.
The French probably don't like the fake French athlete.
Yeah, and it's odd because Rudy won Nice last year, the full, and so I wonder if that has something to do with it. Where Rudy got fourth this year, he had another great year, and maybe Rodolfo's like, well, what the hell? How does Sam Laidow come and do that, and Rudy doesn't improve by that amount or that margin? There's something, I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. But again, I think we're all in agreement here that we hope it's not the case, that he's not doping, that it's just people just being bitter. But it seems like it was all handled very poorly.
Yeah, on all fronts.
For sure.
Awesome.
Anything else this week? Did we miss any topics? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think so. I think we went.
No. I mean, we didn't go crazy into the championship series. I'm sure we'll start getting more information when the PTO comes with their schedules and those sorts of things. So,
and as those races start to unfold next year, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, all that. It's going to be a really cool storyline to follow. So,
did they not put a downhill race in the championship series?
Is California not on there? And that's a serious question. I thought it was on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I closed that window. Of course.
Because I remember that was when they first started California, the first year where they had the frickin' cyclone or whatever. Jan was there, Gustav was there, Lionel was there. They were really selling that as a top-notch race. Because it's faster than Roth probably. You're going to see these pros go, I don't know, probably close to 7 hours or something crazy. So, yeah.
California's not on this list.
Okay.
Yeah. So had the pros, they were going to have the pros the first year, and they haven't come back since then, right? Were the pros there last year?
No,
not this year. Yeah.
No, because it was a week after Kona.
Right.
So
yeah, that's true.
It just lined up perfectly with, world champs previous year being canceled, and they were like, "Oh, we can do this one." So, what, Tony? Just real quick, what can you read those races if you have them in front of you?
You want all of them?
Is there 10 of them? How many are there?
I don't know how many there are, but let's see. So there's Oceanside 70.3, and then you've got Ironman Texas, 70.3 St. George, 70.3 Mallorca in Spain, 70.3 Chattanooga, the Ironman World Championship in Hamburg, 70.3 Boulder, Ironman Cairns. There you go. I always do that. In Australia?
Hamburg's European Championship, not World, right?
Yeah, it's European Championship.
Okay.
Did I say World?
Yeah,
I think you did.
Oh, maybe I said
We knew what you were
fucking
talking about, though.
Who fucking knows anymore, right?
Yeah. Then you have 70.3 Mont Blanc, 70.3 France, Ironman Victoria.
A lot more than 5 70.3s.
Yeah, Ironman
it feels like
Victoria.
it's more heavy 70.3 than Ironman.
Yeah.
Well, it should be too, right?
Then you have Placid, and then you have Ironman Frankfurt, 70.3 Tallinn in Estonia, 70.3 Salamzi, and then you have Nice for women, and then Kona for men, 70.3 Western Australia. And
they don't wrap up at World Champs?
No, and then the 70.3 World Championship in New Zealand. That's the last race.
Oh,
so it really is a calendar year, not considered a season.
Yeah.
And those World Championship races have more points too, so that's the other thing. But yeah, I mean it's going to be cool to see that all
18 total races.
Yeah, the cool thing about it being a calendar year is, it forces some of those athletes, right, to continue racing after World Championships, possibly if they're in contention, right? If you're up there and you're right there, and it's a really close race, they're forced to continue to race and race and race.
Yeah, and that's scary too. I mean, I think I already said it on this podcast. Don't hold me to anything I say on here. I can't remember what the hell I say, but if you're going to put all that weight on Ironman races, what's the longevity of your athletes? Like, how long are they going to stick around? Especially these, Sam Laidows, Trevor Foley's getting into the sport really young. You can only race so many Ironmans a year, and then also race 70.3s. So I feel
like Sam learned that last year, right? He's backed way off this year. It feels like. I mean, yes, he's had a kid, but I feel like he's backed off a little.
No, you're for sure. I mean, Lionel used to race like 10 times a year with 3 Ironmans or something crazy, and you can't sustain that. So, I hope they change the scoring system a little bit to where full Ironmans aren't weighted so heavily, or they just have less on there and they are weighted heavily. But
yeah, they're weighted double right now. That's exactly
right.
It's exactly double.
Yeah, and that's kind of crazy because I heard a stat that Jan, who finished like 49 minutes behind Sam Laidow, got the same amount of points as Rico Bogan at Lati.
Kind of would have gotten
the PTO points.
No. So Rico won the 70.3 world champs. He would have got the same amount of points as Jan, who finished 49 minutes behind Sam Laidow at Nice. Those two races would have been. That's the difference in weight.
Oh, because of the way they weight a full versus a half. Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that, in general, as far as viewership and getting people to watch the sport, I don't have any data, but I watch way more 70.3s than I do fulls, right? Like
live, you're saying?
Start to finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like
yeah,
I will set aside days and right, I'm on the trainer or whatever it is I'm watching, but I don't watch an 8-hour Ironman near as much as I watch a bunch of 4 or 5 hour, 4 hour races, really 3.5 hour.
Maybe Tony and I are the outliers here. I feel like we're always messaging back and forth about freaking Hamburg or something at 4 a.m.
I got kids, dude. I got sports to be at.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah. Understood.
Don't punish us for your mistakes, Chris.
Someday you'll be here, Austin.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, Then if that is it, we can wrap it up.
Yeah. Have a guest on next week, something a little bit different from what we normally have.
Yeah, that'll be exciting.
Yeah. So something new.
Who's coming on? You can tell who it is.
So Joe, who is from Sports Basement, and we have an interesting relationship. Our wives work together. We live right down the street from each other, but he is a long distance paddler, like an outrigger. He's a Hawaiian native, so he's done all sorts of challenges. He paddles to Catalina every other weekend or something crazy, and he's done the islands and all those sorts of things. So it's something outside of our realm, but it is still endurance based. He's done triathlons himself, so we can probably get him to talk a little bit about that. Get him to talk about. Go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
No, what's cool is I believe, I don't know if this is for fact, but he reached out through our website to get a hold of us. And then when I showed it to you, you knew him. So I assumed he learned about OCE somehow. Not necessarily that he knew you were part of OCE, but maybe I'm wrong there.
So he just does marketing for Sports Basement, which is, kind of like a Dick's Sporting Goods, but they're NorCal based. And I guess he found our page and everything and had, emailed the email and it was just a happy coincidence. So we've been talking a little bit, and he's going to come on and talk about, what they offer for triathletes and, probably hook our community up with some discounts and things like that, and talk about his background and kind of the endurance side of things that he does, which is different from anything we've ever done. So I'm actually pretty excited I talked to him a little bit here and there, but I'm excited to hear about it more in depth. So that'll be cool to have him on.
Yeah, and it's funny. I know I've known that it existed, but until more recently, where people started renting bike boxes to travel internationally, I didn't even realize that they were doing that, which is really cool, right? I mean, rent a bike box from them.
I mean, I think they do bike fits there. That's where Michael got his bike fit for free because he was a test subject. The bike box rental thing, it's pretty serious, I guess. So he always tells me about it, and I'm like, well, I gotta finally step foot in that particular one. So, maybe one of these days we'll do a live podcast from there too.
Live podcast from the sales floor.
That's right.
Sounds good. It'd be like the old, the sports radio. They'd go to a restaurant or bar and
like
broadcast.
The high school showdown for football and stuff. Yeah, we're here at the Chili's. Like
we're here at Hooters, and
exactly. Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right, guys. Talk to you next week.
All right, guys.
Have a good one.
All right.